we're going to get into some honesty here. Why is it hard?
Yeah.
It's hard
Uh,
to do
so
agritourism.
sorry to interrupt here. I'm going to go live and we're going to start in a minute, like few
Oh, okay.
seconds, if that's okay.
Sorry, I lost track of
Yeah,
time.
no problem.
Okay, man. We're going to get into some honesty here.
Okay, so I'm going to start the webinar. I- I'm from Bangalore. Okay. To start here, I'm talking about agriculture. In some experience. I would like to something and during the presentation, please don't really end with and ask those company have the type of question. I no, please don't. Yeah, stop. Oh,
Hello, Kabir.
yeah. Can you hear me, guys?
I can hear you now. For
I think
me,
so. There was some technical problems.
okay, great.
Yeah.
Maybe through the recording.
Yeah, now it's live. I think so, yeah. There were some issues I think so happened. Yeah, go ahead, guys.
Okay, great. Can we see the screen? See the
Yeah,
presentation?
yeah, now we can see the screen.
Okay. So, are we ready to go?
Yeah, I think so. There was some technical issues. It just closed out of nowhere.
Yeah,
Yeah, now it's working. Yeah,
fantastic.
perfect.
Well, well, thank you, Kabir. Thank you for inviting Tam and myself to talk about agritourism. We both love to talk and share about agritourism, and we appreciate you inviting us to speak to your group and to your communities um, in the Battle River region. So I'll just sort of get started here with the slide deck. So just sort of we'll get into introductions. Clear Thing Group, we've been around for a long time. We're an Alberta-based, woman-founded. My wife and partner, she started it 30 years ago, 32, 33 years ago now. And it's home-based business. She was working for a large consulting firm in tourism. Then we started a family, so she wanted to be home all the time to raise our two beautiful kids here. Um, this is an image of our family, and this is out in the border of New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, right on the beginning of the uh, Bay of Fundy. And it's some farmland that our family owns. And our family settled in Canada. It wasn't Canada at the time, it was Acadia at the time. So nearly 400 years ago, and we still have some of that farmland, and it's diked. You can see the hills that was diked around from the Bay of Fundy, so they can create or create these wonderful fertile lands. So just a quick little fun picture there. Um, and then I'd like to introduce or like to allow Tam to introduce herself. Hey, Tam, could you like to say a few words, please?
Hello and good morning, everyone. I am also an award-winning farm in Alberta, and we do focus on agritourism. in Sturgeon County. We also have a 25-acre market garden and a traditional farm. So we have beef and grain and grass seeds as our main products. Since 1956, when our farm was first established, we have now had over 1 million visitors. And we have expanded into fruit tree production and sell fruit trees hardy to the Yukon across Canada. And we are an agritourism destination, and we welcome folks from both near and far. We find by far the most common visitor is a visiting friend and relative, but we also have people from Germany and from the US and from across the country. So happy to be here and happy to share what we know.
Thanks, Tam. A little bit more about me. I've been consulting for 26, going on 26 or 27 years, and in areas primarily in agribusiness, tourism, and innovation technology. But specifically, the last 10 years, 11 years now, we've been really spending a lot of our time in agritourism specifically. We started out working through the government of Alberta, working with farms to help farmers prepare for visitors for the annual Alberta Open Farm Day program back in its early days before COVID, and which we would actually go visit. We would every year we'd be in different parts of the province, and we'd visit about 10 farms each year, and they'd show us around, talk to us about their goals and plans and what they would like to do to share their story and experiences with the public that would come out. So throughout the summer, so we'd see them in early summer, and then we start working together and putting together some ideas and some strategies around what they could do to be visitor ready. Um, Most recently, last summer, I started doing an on-farm residency where I would basically pitch a tent, quite literally pitch a tent at the farm on their busy weekends, and I'd help out during their agritourism activities, as well as I would chat and talk to the visitors and learn from them on why are they coming out. And at the end of the days, we would review how the day went, and typically, what were the challenges of the day, and we talk about it, try to figure out ways to get around with that. We recently just completed a project up in Lac La Biche, working with farmers that are interested in getting into agritourism, so kind of walking through the steps on getting ready there. Um, we're into Connect for Food project, which is sort of a new project, recently new, on developing, strengthening local food systems. We worked with different municipalities in developing strategy action plans in for agritourism um, and such. So we're quite deep into agritourism these days.
So sorry to interrupt you. Can everyone see the chat if they want to introduce themselves in the chat? Yeah, that's all I want. I wanted to make sure that everybody saw the chat. Yeah,
Right
go
on.
ahead.
Thanks, Kabir. So just today's talk, excuse me. So today's talk, we're gonna talk about agritourism. What does it really mean? Because it's so new in for Canada, particularly in the prairies. It's something we see a lot in British Columbia. The wine industry is agritourism. If you've ever been to BC, into Kelowna, the valley there, you'll you're it's all over the place. And in out in eastern Canada, Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia are strong in agritourism, but it's quite new for us here. So let's talk about what it means. What's the definition? Why it's growing. We're going to talk about why we're going to talk about it's hard. We have to be honest about it. It's not easy to get into, but I think it's worthwhile. Why it's right for farm families, and why is it right for province, for Alberta, for rural Alberta. And then we'll have a chance to talk and chat about with some questions. So, what is agritourism? So, this is something that came from out of BC back in 2017. by some very smart people, some academics that are specialists in agritourism. And it's really about getting an education, learning, as well as having fun, recreation on a working farm. So it's very simple definition here. We've got a longer one here. This is from the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, more recent, 2023. So, it's much more detailed. So, a connector between urban and rural folks in Ontario and beyond. It helps supports local food, helps people reconnect with nature, learn about where their food comes from. There is a big disconnect these days. And then for the farmers, it's a new way to develop some new market opportunities, either by working or selling directly to the consumers that come to their farms, or if they go off farm to farmers markets and so on, or festivals to sell to market their products that they do. There's also opportunities in doing some value adding. We've seen some of that with some U-Pick dairy farm here in Alberta that now is making jams and pies, and they're going through lots, as well as fruit wines and spirits. So there's great opportunities to value add what you're producing, instead of just being a commodity type of farm operation. And this is sort of the most recent, and this is coming from fairly new organization or network of agritourism folks. It's called the Global Agritourism Network. And so this committee that Kelly is a volunteer on, they worked for quite some time to come up with a definition that would work across the globe. And agritourism is a diversification activity. It's not a non-agricultural business model. It's part of the agriculture business operation. So just wanted to sort of make sure that we're clear on that, because we're offering authentic experiences that are related to agricultural production. So it's not a Disneyland, come visit and have some fun and activities on the farm that's non-farm. It's all about the farm. It's all about agriculture. It's all about the food that we grow and produce. This is a really neat diagram that really defines it very, very well. That was developed by five professors that are do agricultural extension in the United States from 5 different universities, led by Lisa Chase, a good friend. So it really defines what it's about, and we've got that slice of pie there. And basically, it's sort of broken down into different areas. So in the center, you can see, those are more the core type of activities or examples of activities. And for example, under the core, it includes product sales and experiences like farm stands, U-Picks, farm tours, overnight stays, or farm to table meals. On the outside ring, these are off-farm activities or events. They're still agritourism, but they're off-farm. And we want to be inclusive. We want to throw the net out far. So that includes, off-farmers markets, music events, outdoor recreation, for example. So these 5 main categories that you'd see in this ring is education, direct sales, entertainment, outdoor recreation, and hospitality. So why is agritourism popular? Why is it growing? It is growing fast all over the world. And it's really starting to take hold here in Alberta. So, why is it growing? Well, visitors, and I'm not just talking about urbanites, but that's a big target. But even folks living in rural, they're all travelers, they're all visitors. They're looking for authentic experiences. They want to connect with their local cultures, with traditions and lifestyles. New Canadians that are arriving here in Canada, we observe that they're very keen and interested to learn what's going on outside of the cities that they live in, if they're not living in rural, to learn what Canada's about, our heritage, our agricultural culture and heritage. Demand for local products, uh, especially these days, the current situation. It has been popular before. Now it's getting very, very important and popular. So I don't think I really have to get much into that. Changing consumer preferences, people travel behaviors are changing. They're looking for more for experiences. Again, going back to that authentic experiences. So that's fitting, or agritourism is fitting quite well in there. Rural economic development is really important. Agritourism creates jobs as well. As visitors come to rural communities, they may spend the night, or they will go to the convenience store, go to a local restaurant, get some gas. They do contribute as well. As the agritourism business grows, it creates more jobs. It support that business from far folks that are off farm. Technology advances, digital connectivity, social media. So we're seeing more and more images and chats about people's experiences in rural and agritourism, and government support and policy initiatives. We're starting to see government seeing the value of agritourism, the value of how the impacts it makes in rural Alberta, and rural Canada. So I'm a bit of a statistics data nut, but just really quickly, this is a study that was done in Wisconsin in 2012. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of recent data research on agritourism because it's still a smaller part of the agritourism pie, but I think things are changing, but this is still quite interesting and relevant. So, 88% of visitors to an agritourism, to a farm, 88 are going there because they want to support local farmers, and local businesses. 85% are there to spend time on the farm with their family and friends that they bring along. So it's um, another 83% is they're purchasing fresh food. They're going there to buy local and fresh food. And 81%, I won't go through the whole thing, but they want to have a fun adventure. That's an adventure, going to a farm. And a lot of us on the farms may not see our farms as an adventure, but for folks off farm, they really are excited to get on the farm. And Tam's going to talk about her farm, her agritourism operation, and the experiences that she sees. And the last one is 76%. It's an outdoor activities. So this was before COVID, and COVID really kicked in about it, the importance of outdoor activities. But this study was all done before COVID. This is some research that we did a bit more recent in 2018, down in southern Alberta in the Strathmore area during open farm days. And we were doing interviews with visitors again. And basically, the majority, the most popular reason why they're coming is they want to experience and they want to learn about farm life. The next one was taking a tour, equally sampling local foods. Those were the top three answers. So the next one was they wanted to meet and connect with the host family, with the farm family. They want to learn about different farm ag operations and technologies. Just to give you a bit of a sampling there. A bit more. Yeah, I won't get too much into this. I've started already to touch on that. So I'll just maybe skip that and we'll just jump right into why is it hard to do? Well, regulatory compliance. It's a challenge, navigating the regulatory landscape, zoning bylaws for the farm families, if looking into getting into agritourism, permits, licensing can be complex and take some time that's involved, to ensure compliance with the various provincial and municipal regulations, around land use, food safety, environmental protection, building codes, and so on. So we always suggest, if you're looking into that, speak to your folks at the municipality early. before you get started on it, and they can help you navigate through all those. And for the most part, they're happy to see you, and they're excited about it as well. Seasonality and weather. Well, that's the same thing with being a farmer. That's always a challenge, right? But having visitors too, they visitors would like to come out on a nice sunny day, and it might start off that way and might not end that way. So that's always a bit of a challenge. And we're a four season uh, part of the world, so wintertime a bit colder and stuff. But there are lots of agritourism activities happening in all four seasons. But the bulk of it is through spring through till fall is where a lot of the activities that we see. Infrastructure and investment, well, it can be expensive, but it doesn't have to be. You can start with small steps. Market competition, well, with like other tourism type of attractions and activities, we're competing with that. Labor and staffing, well, that has and will continue to be a challenge to get to with attracting staff and labor locally. Um, but I think there's some neat opportunities there. Rural connectivity, accessibility in some places might not have the Wi-Fi or the internet availability, so those could be a bit of a challenge at times. Risk management, liability. Yeah, it's that's a factor that we always need to consider as well. People sometimes are not familiar with the farm environment and may not be dressed appropriately and could hurt themselves. So, but there are ways to mitigate that. And then Ontario just recently brought in a new law in just before Christmas that reduces or eliminates the risk. It's the of folks to sue farm families and so on. So that's a great step in the right direction. In the U.S., I believe there's 33 states that have that similar law. That's something we'd love to see here in Alberta. So why is it right for farm families? Well, diversification of income. Um, I know sometimes there's farm families, some of the members, there's just not enough there to support all the members, and some move into the city and so on. So this could be a nice add-on to keep or to bring back farm family members. And I've seen that happen. So it's a great way to diversify that income to support family more, as well as it's a good hedge over, commodity prices, challenges on the marketplaces where things are down while this could be a great way to offset that as well. And a lot of farm families that are doing agritourism, they see value in this. Value added opportunities, as I mentioned earlier, you can create some products from the goods that you make, like in this picture here with these jams. That's happening here. Educational opportunities. It's great to connect with people in your own community and share your story. So you'll have lots of supporters that way, as well as connecting with people from urban centers. Community engagement and support, same thing around sort of about the education. It does create stronger bonds within your community when you open up your gates to experience, with some farm tours or experiences or selling your product directly. And it does preserve our heritage, our historical. That's what brought people out west onto the prairies. Is agriculture. That was the start of it. So, why is it right for rural communities? Well, as I mentioned earlier, it does create employment. It does keep people in the communities. It even adds people, repopulation. I was at a conference, a tourism conference, and I'm starting to hear in some of the presentations that actually tourism is a draw because to help repopulate people in cities as well as in rural. When people come out to visit, they get to see, they're charmed by not just the farms, but also the rural hospitality that we have, the Western hospitality that we have. And us, for example, as we were looking at downsizing down the road, we don't want to move into the city. We're looking at smaller communities. I won't name them. I don't want to pick favorites, but we're actually looking at different small communities that we want to live in the community. We're living rural, but we want to live in a small town where we can walk and explore local and shop local. We don't always have to jump in a car and that sort of thing or truck. Um, Social improvement, for sure. It does create a, a new mix. It does talk about more about agriculture in a different way. Revitalization of local crafts. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of agritourism operators all over the world. They include artisans as well in some of their farm shops, or they cross promote each other, they help each other out. So it creates a really cool ecosystem. And then income generation, well, again, it does help farm out with an additional revenue stream that does help support the family farm, and so on. So that's sort of that in a nutshell here. I'd like to pass the baton over to Tam, and she can share firsthand what agritourism is on her farm operation as well. So I'll leave with you, Tam. You just let me know when you want me to switch slides.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Pierre, and thank you everyone for tuning in. On our farm, we are involved with agritourism to diversify our farm revenues and give us multiple revenue streams. And we do that through on-farm experiences. What we found over the last 38 years of being in business is that we've had success with experiences that are authentic to our farm. And things that fly are truly authentic, and things that flop are things that are not necessarily so authentic. So in our case, what we have coming in terms of experiences on our farm is for families. So you see dad and the daughter there coming into the farm. So very much the place where people can bring their various generations to the farm together, and they spend time together interacting is as important as just coming to the farm. And also we have a lot of foodies come out to our farm. So we offer farm to table dinners, and we're doing on-farm experiences and adding value by sharing our stories. So the most important thing is that whatever you do, it's what you have passion about and what's authentic to your farm. Next slide. I think as farmers, we don't appreciate sometimes our wealth of knowledge and what the disconnect is between people who don't live on farms and people who live on farms and live the life every day. So if we can share our knowledge and create a safe space for folks to be on our farms and learn and connect not only with each other, but with us as farmers, that is the why for why we do what we do. And the more passion you have about it, the more it shines through. So we find if we can, when we build out an experience on a farm, we try and do everything in 15-minute blocks. And that is kind of matches the attention span of the younger generations, but it also keeps things moving and keeps it interesting for folks. And it just gives them some exposure to the wealth and the breadth of the knowledge that we have as farmers and how to grow food. So if you can connect to them in that way, where you have your experience and your knowledge, that's a great place to start. Next slide. I think you'll back one.
Sorry.
Yeah. As farmers, we're used to being in the commodity markets, and we're price takers, and we just know that the prices go up and down on our wheat and our faba beans, and whatever the cattle prices are doing is pretty much our fate. When we can diversify our farm revenues with on-farm experiences through the art of storytelling, then our story has value, and it has the same kind of value to a visitor as the actual production that you have on your farm. You can charge for your time, and people are very appreciative of you spending time with them and sharing your story. So don't be afraid to lean into your story and tell it over and over and over, because it's the first time for your visitor to hear your story. And the more that you can just let them know how passionate you are and just the novelty of your lived culture. And it could be the simplest thing, like having coffee on the porch of the granary in the morning in the sunshine, or it can be as elaborate as hiring. In our case, we have a storyteller here who's created a fairy finding program, and we get the kids to all completely immerse into the program and come dressed up as fairies and pirates, and he takes them off on a scavenger hunt around the farm just to see what we're doing. And they learn about where the strawberries are and where the trees are and where the animals are. And he winds it all up into this very fun, just unique tale about finding fairies on the farm. So you can, if you have passion about it and you think that's a good fit, then it can work on your farm. In the second slide here, what we've done is we've built a train, and this is actually a tractor in disguise at the front. And it's just a way for us to show people the farm and get them on the farm as a loop and just tour them around and show them where the things are that they can go and find on our farm. In our case, we grow some crop mazes. So we have corn maze and sunflower maze, and then we've planted orchards. So they get to see the apples and the cherries and the plum trees. And we do things like have a bit of a kids' play area. In this situation, we have a puppet show, and so we're teaching them about the little red hen and how we plant the wheat. And kids love this, adults love this, and it's just a fun little interlude that builds a lot of value and doesn't take a lot of time. And it's just creativity. So sometimes, as Pierre mentioned, your investment in infrastructure doesn't have to be huge. It just needs to be creative. So storytelling is a very, very good way to diversify your farm income. And it is a way that creates lasting memories for people. And so often we get folks coming back year after year, and having done this now for 38 years, we have the parents that originally brought their kids, and now their kids are bringing their kids. And so multi-generational visitors just speak to the loyalty that people have when they discover you, and they want to know about your farm and where what happens with your animals, and they want to be a part of your story. So that's how they can really participate, and it's how you can get involved in what's called the experience economy. So this is a great way for you to be able to charge for your tours and adventures on the farm. Next slide, Pierre. What we are all experts at, and we don't even know it sometimes in rural Alberta, is our rural hospitality. We truly are the Alberta brand. We're the salt of the earth folks who grow the food. We raise our children on our farms, and we are stewards of the lands. And I think that is something that's just intrinsic to who we are, and we don't necessarily appreciate it because we're not in urban centers. In the urban centers, when you walk down the sidewalk, the mantra is don't make eye contact, don't make eye contact. But here, people are just so amazed. It's like, you're so friendly and it's so nice and we can just chat. And that's what people really want to do, is just connect with you. We have a sense of community in rural Alberta that doesn't exist pretty anywhere else in the world. And that is a real strength. And it's so easy to do because it's just doing what we do. So don't underestimate the value of the rural hospitality and sharing your story about being stewards on the land. It's so important to us that we alternate our crops and we, grow wheat one year and then we actually have an 8-year rotation where we don't plant wheat in that same land for 8 years on our farm. And it's because we grow dill and we grow faba beans and we have grass seeds and alfalfa and a cow pasture and those keep going in that loop, and it just speaks to the incredible integrity that we have as farmers and that we really care about our planet, and that's really important to people when they're out traveling and they want to know that story. Next slide, Pierre. We've done lots of training over the years on having people out at the farm. And when we have staff come and work with us for the season, we really have this now boiled down to 3 words. It has to be clean, it has to be safe, and it has to be fun for people. And that fun can relate to them as families with kids or adults, or it can be the women that come to visit us at our farm, or it can be the men that come to visit us at our farm. So we try and connect with them in all those ways. But when we're training staff and we're giving often youth their first jobs that they've ever had, it's really simple for them to understand. It has to be clean and it has to be safe and it has to be fun. And if it's not any of those things, they shouldn't be doing it. So this is how we start our training program. We recruit our staff from our local high schools most often. We also recruit staff from a global agritourism network where youth come across the world to work at our farm and learn about Canadian farming. And so there's another way that we can have youth as interns on our farm. And the really beautiful thing about agritourism is that it does create employment in rural areas. And we're our biggest employer in our local region on the farm. And not only that, it also gives us income as farmers. So my husband and I run a traditional farm, but the agritourism activities are mostly myself and my daughter. And it's given us that opportunity to give her an opportunity to stay on the farm and stay farming. And it really is so important that we give youth the opportunity to be on farms in rural Alberta so that our farms and our family farms are still there for the next generation and the next generation. So a little innovation. The young people always want, a new idea. What can they do that's a little different than their parents? And it just gives us a way to connect with her generation and still stay on the farm. Sometimes people say, and will ask us, why tourism? Why did you get involved with tourism? And my answer is always, it's not that we wanted a new occupation. We just wanted a way to stay sustainable on our family farm. And our small part of our farm, my 25 acres of my agritourism, has been fully sustainable for the past 70 years, just on 25 acres. So it does create enough revenue for us to support our family farm, both there and with our traditional farming activities where we can diversify and just change our cash flow rotation, bring in some new monies into our region and stay fully sustainable here on the farm. Thank you, Pierre. Next slide.
Okay. Thanks, Tam. Thanks for sharing the stories. We're just at the end of our presentation slide deck and time to get into any thoughts and questions that the people would have. But I just wanted to show this image of this is a farm, Ardross Farm, that's in Scotland, in Fife, near Perth. And this we were out there at an agritourism conference that the Scottish Agritourism Association puts on. and we were out there to learn about agritourism in Scotland. We met them at a conference in the spring in Italy, an agritourism, the global agritourism uh, conference there, and they're going to be hosting the global conference in 2026. So when we heard that, we talked to the folks there, and they said you got to come in 2026. And we said, well, I think we need to get out there sooner because there's a lot that you. I'm sure there's a lot you can share with us. There's a lot that we can learn from you here in Canada, Alberta, and Canada. So we went out in November, and so like as I mentioned earlier, we visited some many farms, and this one was very impressive. It was our first one that we visited, but this sign says it all. This is the why in my mind is it supports 19 members of our team, nine of which are family, over 100 small businesses in their area, other farms and businesses, but mostly farms that are selling other products. You know, the turkey guy down the road, the bakery just down the road, and so on. And then they throw it out further, hundreds more of Scotland in Scotland, and they even threw it out more as local in the UK. So you know, this is the impact that they have there. And on that note, I'd like to come back to Tam. Can you tell, like, how many people do you employ? I know it's, you know, it's seasonal, but can you give us an idea of how many people that work with you at the farm?
No, it really varies wildly across the season. I know in our traditional farm operations, my husband, his brother, and two other gentlemen fully run about 3,500 acres. In my little farm where we focus on the agritourism, we create the full-time equivalent of 16 full-time positions in our rural area. And it ranges across the season. So in our slow times, we might have two or three core staff. And at our very busy times at pumpkin harvest in the fall, we might have 30 or 40 employees that come out. So we really do create quite a ripple of jobs in our area. Over the years of being involved with this, we're quite involved with the Alberta Farm Fresh Producers Association, and I sit as president at the moment. And as president of the association, we work with all kinds of farms that are involved with selling farm direct at the gate. And so this is how our job, this is how our business really got started. You know, we have a little greenhouse and a garden center, but we added you pick strawberries, and people would come out to the farm and say, hey, it's really nice out here. What else can we do? And as agripreneurs, we always smile and nod and say, tell us what you'd like to do, and we'll see if we can figure that out. And so we have grown our business from just a garden center to a U-Pick operation, and then U-Pick strawberries to U-Pick pumpkins, and now U-Pick apples and U-Pick cherries. And because of our experience and knowledge in selling and growing fruit in the province, that's now also diversified into a mail order business. So we sell and ship hardy fruits across Canada by mail. And people drive to us for, you know, almost 8 hours to come and pick up orchard packages. So we've diversified into a surprising venture where our tree nursery, which, you know, we've been since 1956, is what's old is new again. And now we can say that we are fully involved in garden-inspired tourism, and people will come and spend the day with us, have a tour of the orchard, learn how to prune an apple tree, have a lunch. And when they have a lunch, it's not a lunch that we haven't grown on the farm. It's a lunch that everything has come from the farm. So, you know, we'll do a home style farm soup and a plowman's lunch where we've got pickles and eggs and the things that we actually produce right here on the farm as part of it. My husband always laughs and he says, Tam, that's what we call vertical integration in the agriculture industry, where you add value to the crops that you grow right on site. And so not only do we take our primary agriculture production. So an example would be potatoes, because we grow potatoes and we sell potatoes for $1 a pound at the farm stand. And we also sell them through our CSA program, which is a local weekly food basket. But we also take those potatoes and we'll turn them into dilly garlic roasted potatoes that people can sample at our farm corn session, we call it, in the fall. And so now we've taken that product that we were only able to get $1 a pound for as a commodity, and now we're getting $15 a pound for it as a value added item. But if we can take that one step further, and we now have a farm to table dinner on the farm, we're putting our potatoes on the plate. Um, and we've turned it into a 7-course gourmet meal. Now those potatoes are worth $150 per person, not $1 a pound. So there is, I think, just incredible opportunity in Alberta for us to take advantage of these value chains and value adding on our farm. And if you can take that one step further and say, well, you can buy those potatoes for $1 a pound. You can get them at our concession for $15 a pound as a nice little treat. But if you also add an entry fee, so an admission to that, and people are willing to pay $25 a person to come and visit the farm at our pumpkin festival season, now you're not only garnering revenue from your produce, but also the experience. And once you enter that experience economy, it's a little different because people have expectations. But once they come and they love it, they become a longtime customer. And you find that now you have an intangible that people are willing to pay for, which is your story and their experience. And so you've added value by valuing who you are and what you do, as well as the products you grow. So it's a boundless opportunity, and I think it's a really interesting time that we're in with the threat of tariffs and all this discussion of lowering provincial barriers so that our local supply chains are open. I think we have an incredible opportunity to showcase local and to build our local food sheds and increase local food security by letting people buy their food directly from our farms. And if anyone comes to a farm, again, they're visiting a farm, and it's actually agritourism, whether you thought of it that way or not. We work with a grower of poultry and pork in our collaborations, and she has people come to her farm every day and buy her local food. And we chatted the other day, and she said, "But Tam, I'm not in tourism." And I said, "You are in tourism. You just don't know it yet." And so it was just like a penny dropped for her. And I said, "So when people come to your farm, you have a huge opportunity not only to sell them your pork and your poultry, but they'll pay you $25 for a tour. And you're taking the time to sell things to them anyway. Why would that not be a possible revenue stream for you?" And her eyes got very sparkly, and she was like, "Yes, I can do this, and I will." So I think it's the small things, it's baby steps, and it's just realizing that you can not only charge for the things that you grow, but your time. Back to you,
Before we
Pierre.
get,
Right. Thank you so much,
before we get
guys,
into
for this insightful presentation. I hope everybody found it valuable. Now we will open the floor for Q&A. If anybody wants to ask questions, they can write it in the Q&A section. And I see there today there are a lot of phone call listeners, and if they don't want to type, they can raise their hand and I can allow them to talk. Perfect. Till then, do you guys want to add on something to it? Pierre, you were saying something?
oh, I was just gonna sort of ask Tam. She brought up about charging, the example of a neighbor that's selling pork and poultry and the value add of maybe providing experience and stuff. I know there's a hesitancy about pricing and within farmers are maybe hesitant because maybe they're unsure of what they should charge and so on. I just was going to ask Tam if she could sort of comment about pricing and maybe deal with some of the misconceptions. Hey, Tam?
Yeah, well, on pricing your experiences, it really depends on who you're marketing those experiences to and what their expectations are. We find because we work a lot with families that families are comfortable paying about $25 a person. But because we also work with travelers from further afield or the orchardists, they're more comfortable paying $85 for an hour of experience because they're learning and they're gaining knowledge. And then we actually work with a helicopter company, and he will fly people in for a heli picnic, which is all our very local food in our forest. And he charges people $2,500 for an hour of experience. So that whole range is part of our marketing scheme and our overall plan and strategy to be sustainable. Our biggest challenge on the farm um, is with municipal regulations, and not because they don't want our farms to succeed. It's because they don't understand our industry. And where you see Ontario bringing forth some new policy to limit liability in respect to agritourism, as the Agritourism Growth Act is really going to be immensely helpful for farms in Ontario. And I think it is something that our Alberta policymakers and people that govern these sorts of things take a look at. The Alberta Farm Fresh Producers Association is really actively lobbying both the ministries of tourism and agriculture to look for some provincial guidance on this. And I think, if municipalities realize that folks could come to the farm and there wouldn't be a risk increased in terms of liability, that would, make it simpler for farms to get into this business, and also for farms to get insurance for the liability on agritourism.
If I can add, it would actually, that act will eventually lower insurance costs as well, because if there's a law to limit liability, then the limit and the liability is low. So that would impact the costing of insurance. And these are the things that Ontario Agritourism, their association, have envisioned with this, and that's where it's going. So yeah, that's great. What about Tam? What about most recent aha moments in you're coming up to 40 years in this agritourism world here in Alberta. And so you've seen a lot of changes and a lot of great things and some challenges, of course. But what are the neat things that are really just you've noticed in the last little bit that you can share?
I think for us, the big aha moment is that we are the brand of Alberta, and our hospitality, our way of life, our stories are just so intrinsically interesting to people from away. So that was one aha moment. And the other is that there's been quite a shift in our operations to from kind of a low return, high volume model in terms of bringing people out to the farm to a different model where it's a high return, low volume program. So with our orchard packages and with our orchard training for folks, people, the average spend might be $500 or $600 by the time they leave the farm. So for us to involve ourselves on that level really makes sense financially, and really makes sense for my daughter to be involved on the farm. And gives her an income, and me an income, and my husband an income, um, and new money that, we're not so at risk to the volatile whims of the world and whatever the tariff situation might be, or the trade patterns. So we really like to insulate ourselves from those risks, and that's been a great strategy for us.
Mhm.
Perfect. I see there are no questions today. Before we end our webinar, do you guys want to add something else to it?
Yeah.
Um, I was going to say, Tam, maybe share with the folks here on the who the people, who's coming to your farms. Give us a bit of a description of your visitors, just to give an idea what that looks like.
Yeah, we have different streams. In our orchard business and fruit tree business, it's farmers generally who are coming and they're planting an acre of fruit trees. And so they're looking to learn about how we can grow fruits on the prairies and create a legacy so that the next generations that stay on the farm have a food source and a fruit source. If it's our pumpkin festival, then it's families, and they're coming from Edmonton, and it's mom, dad, granny, grandpa, and all the kids, and some of the relations as well. And they're coming out just to have fun and spend the day together. We have a whole new influx of people to our farm in the recent years, which are newcomers to Canada, and they now live in Edmonton. And they're very used to sourcing food from farms, and they can't believe that they have to go to a box store to buy food. And they'd much rather come out to the farm and talk to the farmer and pick it fresh themselves. So there's a whole new influx there of newcomers to Canada that are interested in finding a local farm to buy their beef, to buy their pork, to buy their eggs, to buy their vegetables and their berries from. So it just so depends. And each time we try something new, we find something new. Lately, we've been offering a date night at the farm where we have a pizza that we're making from our homegrown tomatoes and basil that we have in the greenhouse and figs that we grow in the greenhouse. And that market is 20 somethings. So the younger generation is really, really intrigued with local food and they want to support a local farm. And this gives them a way to do it that's fun and unique and novel. So each of those different demographics have, different income levels and different interests and time that they'd like to spend with us, but they're pretty keen.
How about the
Um,
corporate side? You get some of that happening?
We do, yeah. That's been a very big focus for our farm of late because we recently won the Culinary Experiences Tourism Award from Edmonton Tourism. We're now on the map for folks as far as interesting and unique corporate retreats and company picnics and Christmas parties. And so we bring corporate groups out. They might range from, 15 to 100 people, and they want a local long table dinner and a unique situation. And they want to feel good about making a difference to the planet and supporting a local farm and in a sustainable way. So all of those things are good for our business. There is an upcoming conference that people, if you're interested, could take in more information about on March 1st and 2nd. Organic Alberta and the Alberta Farm Fresh Producers Association are partnering, and that conference is in Nisku. And you can get tickets and come and learn all these different streams, whether it's organic growing or marketing or agritourism. So there's some great resources out there. We'd encourage you to join up with a local association. Alberta Beef has been really supportive of agritourism as they know that farmers are searching for alternate markets. And certainly, there's Haskap Growers Association. There's a number of them out there. But the Alberta Farm Fresh Producers Association is leading the advocacy on farm direct farm sales at this time.
Perfect. Thank you, Tam, and thank you, Pierre, for answering, for coming in today. It was a pleasure to have you guys today with us. That brings an end to our webinar. Thank you all for attending. We hope you found this information useful and enjoyed the discussion. If you have any feedback or suggestions, feel free to share them via email. And have a great day. And if you guys have any other questions specific to Pierre or Tam, they can always send me an email, and you guys can take a picture of this slide with their contact details. Thank you. Yeah. Have a good day,
Thanks
guys.
very much. Thanks very much, Kabir.